Welcome to another edition of Border Report Live. I'm Sandra Sanchez, coming to you from Harlingen, Texas, deep on the South Texas border. I'm filling in for Rudy Mireles. Later, I'll be joined by UTRGV's Roseann Bacha-Garza of the history program there to talk about a unique event where people can sign up to retrace the steps of the Underground Railroad that went through here from South Texas to help slaves escape to Mexico. But first, some headlines. A federal judge has accused the Trump administration of terrorizing immigrants and recklessly violating the law in its efforts to deport millions of people living in the United States. Citing the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minnesota, the judge said in a scathing decision late Wednesday that the White House had also extended its violence on its own citizens. U.S. District Judge Sunshine Skies in Riverside, California, ordered Homeland Security to provide detained immigrants around the country with notice of her earlier decisions that they may be eligible to seek release on bond. Under past administrations, people with no criminal record could request a bond hearing before an immigration judge while their cases wound through immigration court, unless they were stopped at the border. President Donald Trump's White House reversed that policy in favor of mandatory detention. And the federal government is starting to charge migrants with trespassing as part of a new Trump administration plan to crack down on illegal immigration. Last year, as you'll recall, in the South Texas here on the border, the government transferred the northern bank of the Rio Grande from the International Boundary and Water Commission to the military and designated it as a national defense area. We brought you several of those stories. That made it a crime to knowingly cross the area, which runs from Brownsville to Roma, Texas. The military put up signs, which are in the Rio Grande, as you can see there on your screen, calling it a restricted area. They also have even been projecting with loudspeakers, broadcasting the warning in Spanish. Well, now the government is charging people who cross through the area with entering a military zone for an unlawful purpose and willful violation of what's called a, quote, defense property security regulation. These are misdemeanor charges. At least 5 people have been charged so far, and they've all pled guilty. And also 9 people face criminal charges in connection to a shooting last July at an ICE facility near Fort Worth. Their trial was supposed to begin this week, but a federal judge declared a mistrial Tuesday because of an issue during jury selection. Defense attorneys say in the case that the jury selection will begin again on Monday. Prosecutors allege all 9 defendants are part of an anti-fascist or Antifa cell in North Texas. They will stand trial together and face 7 different types of charges. 5 defendants face charges of attempted murder of federal and local officers. A former federal prosecutor wants a large number of defendants could lead to a longer trial where anything, they say, could happen.
While I'm sure the prosecutors have thought long and hard about why they want one trial, be careful what you wish for, because you now have 9 times as many chances that something can go wrong.
Now, the judge could still decide to sever the trial or split up the defendants into different trials to make everyone receive a fair trial. And as you know, it's been nearly a week of the partial government shutdown. Congress still has not approved funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Democrats are demanding changes to immigration and customs enforcement before that can happen. Washington correspondent Maddie Beer-Temple reports on where negotiations stand.
Democrats say the ball is now in the president's court when it comes to negotiating ICE reforms, but the White House says that Democrats' demands are unserious.
This is day 5 of the Trump Republican shutdown.
Democrats are the reason that the Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down.
Washington is no closer to a deal on funding the Department of Homeland Security. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats won't approve more funding without changes to ICE operations. That includes a ban on masks, mandated judicial warrants, body cameras, and more.
And they remain lines in the sand for us because we're standing up for everyday Americans, for American citizens, and for law-abiding immigrant families who are being violently targeted.
The funding standoff comes after federal agents killed 2 American citizens in Minneapolis last month, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Jeffries says he wants to make a deal, but
we've not seen any high-level effort coming from the president or from the House or Senate Republican leaders.
We've been engaged in good faith negotiations with the Democrats.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says Democrats' demands are a non-starter.
Last night, they sent over a counterproposal that, frankly, was very unserious, and we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this.
The DHS shutdown is currently impacting the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard, but ICE remains funded through the Big Beautiful Bill. Reporting in Washington, I'm Maddie Beertemple. Back to you.
And the Trump administration issued a sweeping new order that could lead to the arrest of tens of thousands of refugees who are lawfully in the United States, but they don't have yet permanent residency. A memo filed by the Homeland Security says refugees applying for green cards must return to federal custody 1 year after they were admitted to the United States for review of their applications. DHS, quote, may maintain custody for the duration of the inspection and examination process, the memo says, which was filed on Wednesday. And a Republican border congressman from Texas is blaming his GOP opponent for politicizing the death of a former staffer he's accused of having an affair with. Congressman Tony Gonzalez, whose district runs from San Antonio to El Paso, was the focus of a San Antonio Express news article that reported on a text message from the woman who admitted to having an affair with Gonzalez. In the past, Gonzalez has said the allegations of an affair are not true. Regina Santos Aviles, a Gonzalez aide, died after lighting herself on fire in her Uvalde home last year. Another former aide in Gonzalez's office said that Santos Aviles had told him of the affair with the congressman and provided a text message showing from Santos Aviles where she said she had, quote, had an affair with our boss. His primary opponent, fellow Republican Brandon Herrera, is calling for Gonzalez to resign. That's it for headlines. When we return, we have Roseann Bacha-Garza of the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley to tell us about the Underground Railroad that operated here in South Texas and how you can participate in an event retracing the steps. Stay with us. Border Report Live will be back in 2 minutes. And welcome back to Border Report Live. I'm Sandra Sanchez in Harlingen, Texas, and joining me in the studio today is Roseann Bacha-Garza. She is with the University of Texas, the Community Historical Archaeological Project with Schools. Long name, acronym is CHAPS. Welcome, Miss Bacha-Garza. You last year put on this unique event called the Walking Southern Roads to Freedom event. I actually went to it, covered it. It was fascinating. This is Black History Month. The event is being repeated again at the end of the month. You're here to tell us about it. What'd you learn from the last event, and what are you going to do this time around?
Well, we were very excited with the great success that we had last year for the inaugural Walking Southern Roads to Freedom project. We are trying very hard to bring awareness to the Black history in our region, especially as it relates to Underground Railroad-like traffic through South Texas and into Mexico, and the families, mixed race origins that helped these freedom seekers achieve their freedom along the way. So last year, when we had our inaugural event, we were inspired by a woman out of the Harriet Tubman Museum and Educational Center in Cambridge, Maryland, where Harriet Tubman was raised and was enslaved. She had heard about a project that we successfully got the Jackson Ranch Church and Martin Jackson Cemetery onto the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom program through the National Park Service, and wanted to learn more about it and wanted to come down and conduct a walk to freedom, just like she does in her area on the Eastern Shore in Maryland, and wanted to come down and meet people here, meet the family descendants. So we planned a 65-mile walk last year over 7 days. It was wildly successful beyond our dreams. We had a lot of local attention, and we had people from other parts of Texas and other states in the country come and join us for this wonderful event.
I joined you on day 3, where you had 13 miles of walk scheduled. I think you were talking about Linda Harris from the Tubman Museum who came down. She told me something really interesting. She said people, as they participated, told her they felt like they were walking with the ancestors. And that was just, it was a very poignant moment. Tell us a little bit about what you did on the walk and what you felt.
Well, that in and of itself is a very powerful statement and is the mantra of our planning committee and everybody who's been participating in organizing last year's event and this year's event. Wanting to walk in the shoes of the ancestors, to know the distances that they traveled, and to experience the locations that the folks would have walked through and perhaps stayed at either the Jackson Ranch community or the Weber Ranch community, and learn more from their descendants as to how they feel about being related to these wonderful families.
Now, last year it was 7 days, as you mentioned. This year it's shorter. It's 3 days, February 27th through March 1st. You start in Alamo. You actually end at the International Bridge, McAllen Hidalgo Reynosa International Bridge that crosses in to Mexico. Do you go across to Mexico, and what's that like for the participants?
Yes, we actually cross over the bridge and symbolically become free as we set foot on Mexican soil. That's what it says in the Mexican Congress. That's what these freedom seekers were trying to achieve back in the 1830s and 40s and 50s and prior to the U.S. Civil War. And we want to experience that exhilaration as we cross a river and are greeted by our counterparts in Mexico. So we will be greeted by Dr. Martin Salinas from the archives. He's the chief archivist over there, and other elected officials and from the city of Reynosa. And we will symbolically be free, and we will shake hands as a friendship across the border to promote our two countries and the transnationalness of our region.
That's so beautiful, symbolically free. I mean, tell us, for those who are not aware, what the laws were in Mexico and how people could escape to Mexico from here. We all know about people heading north, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think that many people realize that many people escape to freedom this way.
Well, ever since Mexico gained their independence from New Spain, they were not interested in allowing slavery within their borders. By 1829, the third president of Mexico, Vicente Guerrero, who happens to be Afro-Mestizo, had declared that slavery was abolished in Mexico. And then later on in 1837, after Texas gained their independence from Mexico and wanted to retrieve a lot of those enslaved folks who sought their freedom and successfully attained it, they wanted them to come back over the border. Mexico would not allow any extradition. They would not participate with any of that. So the Mexican government in 1837 stated in their constitutions that this is without exception. And even later on in 1857, they continued to put that language into their laws that once a person walked across the border into the country of Mexico, that they indeed were free.
Wow. Now, several of the locations that you'll be stopping at this year include, I think, the Eli Jackson Ranch and Cemetery, which is a very historic site. Last year, we were in Alamo at where the La Matanza happened. Where do you plan on going this year's event?
Well, this year we planned a 3-day walk versus a 7-day walk.
So a lot fewer miles. How many miles total?
Total 24 miles.
Okay.
And we will start in the city of Alamo Central Park, where we will think about the memory of La Matanza, where the Texas Rangers had hung many, many Mexican Americans and Mexican Texans in the 19 teens. So we are starting at a location where there were injustices against people of color. So we will also have Native American groups there doing a blessing with a send-off to our walkers so that we can embark on this journey with a blessing and some type of spiritual enrichment.
So I think it's important to note that, as you mentioned, the La Matanza location is in memory of Mexican Americans who were lynched, terrorized. It's not just Underground Railroad, it's people of color and tracing the routes that people of color took for their freedom here through South Texas into Mexico.
Yes, correct. So we have the locations that have to do with the African American groups were the Weber Ranch and the Jackson Ranch, where you had the mixed race couples and couples who had their mixed race children who were assisting freedom seekers across the river through the Jackson Ranch and the Weber Ranch, and then on our way to visit Mexico, Reynosa, Mexico.
I think it's, I think we've mentioned it before. The Eli Jackson Ranch and Cemetery, we have a lawmaker here, in Hidalgo County, whose ancestors were actually helped to operate that Underground Railroad there. And I've met him out at the Pablo Villarreal at the cemetery a few times, very, very proud of his heritage, how much his family gave up to try to facilitate and hide people and feed people and clothe people until waiting till the cover of darkness, or, to cross the Rio Grande in little boats and getting people safely to the other shore. And it's a story that he carries on years later. It's people like that tell their experiences that help to make this such an enlightening event, right?
Yes, we're very, very happy to see that the descendants of these families are acknowledging, embracing, celebrating this very important history in U.S. history, and the role that their ancestors played, and the strength and perseverance and intestinal fortitude that pushed them forth to this place, this very unique place in our country on the border, the international border between the United States and Mexico. And so without that sacrifice of their ancestors, making it all the way to the border, settling here and defying all odds and doing what is humane, expressing their humanity to help and assist freedom seekers to continue their journey across the river and to find freedom in Mexico. Without that humanity, those ancestors would not be here at the moment. And those ancestors are the ones today who are expressing that grace and poise and intestinal fortitude and strength and courage to honor their ancestors.
That's amazing. I was reading, you sent out an announcement for this, and we do have a registration link. I think if our producer, Devin, can put that up. There we go. There's a link where you can go. It's a bit.ly link. We also will have this on our borderreport.com story, but this is how you can sign up for the event, which is February 27th through March 1st, so you have plenty of time to do it. I was reading, and we have it right there on the screen, bit.ly/register2walking. So you want to go check that out. I was looking at some of the information you sent, and it said that this year, every day you're going to end with moments of reflection, song, and friendship. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, what we want to put forth with the planning and execution of this event, again, this year, is the fact that we live in a very special and unique part of our country. We are family, we are friends. This is the mantra that people put forth here. We welcome anybody with open arms to come join us and learn about this very unique history, this very special history. And we want to tell the story, the special story of the folks on the Rio Grande, on the U.S.-Mexico border, here in Hidalgo County, that were a very, very important part of this journey. So we hope to enlighten more people to learn about this story, because this is a hidden history. It's not often told, but it is very important to the whole scheme of Underground Railroad traffic and folks who are seeking freedom to release themselves from captivity and enslavement.
And I just want to add to a little bit about that. Some of the experience that I had as a reporter following you around last year, it was mentioned to me, you know, there were cars passing us on roads, there was honking, GPS, cell phones, you know, we knew where we were going, right? But back in the day when people actually traversed these routes, they didn't have that kind of direction. Maybe they didn't have shoes on their feet. They were running in the darkness. Maybe the moonlight was taking them. You know, it was a whole different experience. But still, I can tell viewers that, you know, you experienced a bit of that. There was a serene solitude. People were quiet and respectful, and you know, it really was a moving experience.
Well, that's our thought. We know that we are not replicating this experience exactly by a freedom seeker or a group of freedom seekers who were clandestinely traveling at night and through the brush and trying to avoid, you know, wild animals and other dangers along the way. This walk is meant to respect that journey, those journeys that those people took, and to walk in their shoes. And we hope that we are able to provide the respect that they deserve by doing this. As an annual event, we would love to do this as an annual event.
This is the second annual Walking Southern Roads to Freedom event, February 27th through March 1st, here, starting in Alamo, Texas. Roseann Bacha-Garza of UTRGV, thanks so much for joining us today. Stick with us. Border Report Live will be back in 2 minutes with more. Welcome back to Border Report Live. I'm Sandra Sanchez. Yesterday, we were talking to our Southern California correspondent, Salvador Rivera, about stormwater that's passing through San Diego and the Tijuana region and how there's pollution affecting the area. Sewage-tainted water coming from south of the border, contaminating wells used by ranchers in the region. Today, he tells us how they're frustrated and nothing is being done to help them.
Overall, the Tijuana River Valley made it through the storm unscathed. I was expecting Saturn Boulevard to be flooded, but as you can see, it's not. But judging by all this white foam, there is still plenty of raw sewage, chemicals, and other contamination coming in via the Tijuana River. This is where the Tijuana River begins its journey inside the United States. It's here you will find a 450-foot-long trash boom, keeping trash from going any further into the Tijuana River Valley. Tons of floating debris will be stopped here, but there's nothing it can do to hold back the millions of gallons of raw sewage and other contamination that comes in from south of the border. Downstream, the pollution becomes obvious as it turns into white foam, releasing dangerous gases into the air, creating other problems for ranchers like Ruben Cervantes.
The reason it's a big problem is because we're on well water, and the well water is what's feeding the horses.
Cervantes says the horses in the valley that drink the water are coming down with intestinal parasites such as worms.
We have to deworm every 2 months because they do create worms. This water is like this all year long, even when it's not raining.
Another concern for Cervantes and his neighbors is Saturn Boulevard. When it's not flooded, it's in really bad shape. Cervantes wants the city and/or the county to fix the issue, maybe put in a bridge. But his major concern for now is the foam getting into the groundwater, hurting the horses and other animals in the valley.
We also pay taxes, and the animals should be taken care of.
Near Saturn Boulevard is Smuggler's Gulch, where more tainted water from Mexico was running over Monument Road.
And that's Salvador Rivera. I'm Sandra Sanchez. Thanks for joining us today. That's all the time we have on Border Report Live.